hadn't really heard anything about the new Sam Mendes film Empire of Light, but when I saw Olivia Colman was in it, I was certainly intrigued. I'm not sure how large of a release this is going to get, but should you search it out to see it? Hilary is a woman with a difficult past and an uneasy present. She's part of a makeshift family at the old Empire Cinema on the seafront. When Stephen is hired to work in the cinema, the two find an unlikely attraction and discover the healing power of movies, music, and community. So like I said, this stars Olivia Colman, but it also stars Micheal Ward with some supporting performances by Toby Jones, Colin Firth, and Tom Brooke. Now first off, the acting in this, it is stellar. Both Olivia Colman and Micheal Ward, they are spellbinding. They have wonderful chemistry together that had me longing for everything between them to work. Now Colman as Hilary is restrained, guarded, she's even damaged. There's an overarching sadness to her character, and the reasons for that, they're not really revealed until much later in the film. Now Colman captures immense joy as well as tremendous sorrow in a manner that keeps us guessing at what we'll get next. There's a point towards the end of the movie where she has a brief monologue, and the emotions that are captured, along with the body movements, they just left the screen and made me feel them. Now, she was a powerful force to watch, and I loved seeing the story through her eyes, even though it was sometimes difficult to view. Ward as Stephen is equally outstanding. His presence held my attention consistently as he exuded just charm and charisma. Now, he has this sort of wide-eyed view of the world, but also a groundedness due to the things that he's experienced as we learn through the story. Now, I love that despite hardships, he still pushes forward, and through most of this, he isn't deterred, regardless of the obstacles. Now, this is billed as a romantic drama, and there are definitely those story elements that make this a very May-September romance. But what I appreciated even more is the level of friendship that's displayed. And while it may come on suddenly, there's a genuineness between Stephen and Hilary that makes them believable and even a pairing to root for. Stephen is empathetic towards Hilary, maybe recognizing some struggles that she has, which then allows him to be softer towards her and show kindness that others just may not give to her. Now, the movie's right at 2 hours, so it's not a quick watch, but despite the quieter storytelling style, this didn't drag to me. I was drawn to the relationship angles, and because they were varied in the dynamics, these maintained my interest all the way through. But that being said, I think what this story tries to do is overly ambitious. The synopsis stated that the characters discover the healing power of movies, music, and community. So yeah, but also no. The movie angle predominantly plays because this is mainly set in a movie theater. So a lot of the character interactions revolve around the theater itself, but rarely are the movies actually included. That's not to say that there aren't a couple of wonderful moments that have some impact that surround the idea of movies, but it's really not a central focus, at least not one that comes across that way. And music does play a part in the storytelling. Not only is the soundtrack and score very moving and complementary to the actions that we watch, but there are moments that have some very relevant points and messages. Even for today. But while these are also brought up in tiny ways here and there, music doesn't ever take a huge focus in the narrative either. Now, the idea of a community does play in heavily as we watch all of the characters interact in the theater. There are some sideline players that really are unimportant to the story, but there are a handful that even when they have minimal interaction or lines, they help to reinforce the camaraderie that's felt between the staff at the theater. And this also works to showcase friendship and caring relationships, which is certainly a central focus of the film. And I love that we get to see tiny eccentricities in a few of the theater workers. Their bond, it just reminded me of movies like Empire Records or High Fidelity, where they started out as co-workers but became friends along the way. Now, one other aspect that's included in this felt almost shoehorned in, even though it's a very important and relevant discussion. There's a racism message within this that I really appreciated, showcasing how little things have actually changed in the last 40 years. But for as important of a theme as this is, the story feels very disjointed when it delves into this area. Now, Stephen is black, and aside from his mom and one other character, I don't think we see any other black characters, which is by design, to show how the times then and now weren't accepting of anyone that looked different than the majority. Now, unfortunately, this angle to the story actually diminished the friendship focus that was highlighted, which then led to the emotional confusion I felt and the jumbled storytelling. And again, I'm not saying these aren't important messages to address, but the story didn't adequately cover them in a way that feels complete or is an integral portion of the tale. And this is then where I'm torn on how I feel about this movie as a whole. I loved the performances, especially with both Colman and Ward. They're phenomenal, and I really can't wait to see more of Ward in future projects. I mean, I was hanging on his words because as he said them, it really felt like he had stopped acting. It was just speaking to a friend. I mean, the sincerity of his delivery was awesome. And on a side note, both Toby Jones and Tom Brooke also get to have some very moving conversations within the story, and they too showcase an enormous amount of palpable empathy. And Colin Firth, on the other hand, is a despicable character who you will almost instantly hate. He does an amazing job at being slimy and horrible and just a trash human. This is also a wonderful film from a visual standpoint. The framings place the characters in ways that we're drawn to them. I mean, there's nothing flashy or showy in the way that this is filmed. It's just simple and beautiful. And so much of the time placing the characters center frame so that they can't be ignored. But it's not like you'd want to ignore these performances either. So at the end of this, I'm a bit torn on where I stand with the movie. There are portions that really resonated with me and were very moving. And then there are other portions that hampered the flow of the story, leaving me with a sort of confused overall emotional feeling. Now, I do know that for as much as I enjoyed the acting and the chemistry, this isn't something I'm going to go back and revisit. Overall, Empire of Light is a beautifully acted and shot film, showcasing a remarkable friendship between two seemingly very different people. Olivia Colman and Micheal Ward are captivating in the lead roles, balancing support and love with a delicate touch. Unfortunately, the story attempts to pack too many themes and arcs within the narrative, creating a clunky and confused tone that detracts from the main point. And since this has a central story that is intriguing, this can be a captivating watch, and I'm really not sure it's worth the full trip to the theater to experience. There's sex, no nudity, a lot of profanity, and some very brutal violence. I give Empire of Light 3 out of 5 couches. So, do you have a favorite performance from Olivia Colman? Let me know what it is in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.